Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 24 quarterback and tight end rankings for week number 4 of the 2023 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below while you're down there. Whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top 24 quarterback and tight end rankings for week numero 4. We begin with the S tier at the quarterback position at number 1 with Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Washington Commanders at home in Philly this week. Besides week number 1 where Jalen Hurts had kind of a down game up against the Patriots, he has been a top 9 quarterback in the last 2 games, currently the quarterback 7 on the season. With this tush-push thing continuing to be legal in the NFL, you know Jalen Hurts is basically a lock at this point to get at least 1 rushing touchdown in any given game. Now this year, I feel like Jalen Hurts outside of that Vikings game hasn't really looked like the Jalen Hurts that we saw last season, but I'm not ready to quit on Jalen Hurts yet. He has still been very reliable for fantasy football, and I think this is going to be a big game for him up against division rivals, the Washington Commanders. At number 2, we move to Justin Herbert, the pervert of the LA Chargers, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, despite the fact that Justin Herbert did lose his wide receiver to Mike Williams to injury, obviously towards ACL, very sad, they still have Keenan Allen, Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler. I don't think at this point is going to end up playing, but Justin Herbert still has a lot of weapons to his disposal. He is going up against quite literally one of the worst defenses in the NFL. He was the QB1 last week up against the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's entirely possible that he repeats that this week. Currently the quarterback 3 on the season. Every single quarterback inside of the S tier are must starts for me. At number 3, we got Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Kirk Cousins has completely shook me this season. Now, I always thought that Kirk Cousins was pretty good, but it was always fun to throw stones at him, right? In prime time, Kirk Cousins was a complete and utter unmitigated disaster, but this year, he broke those primetime allegations. Quarterback 2 in week 2 up against the Eagles in prime time. This week, he gets the Carolina Panthers in perfect time, right? The noon nightmare. Now, obviously, noon is 12 o'clock, but you get what I mean, right? 1 o'clock game, the perfect atmosphere for Kirk Cousins. And what's really shocked me about Kirk Cousins is you kind of just knew that he was reliable every single week to be like the quarterback 8 to quarterback 15 in fantasy, right? He was never really going to take your team over the top, but he was also never going to hit your team with an RKO from out of nowhere like Randy Orton, except for this year, the guy is the quarterback 2 on the season. People need to start throwing some respect on Kirk Cousins' name. And honestly, in these positive matchups, like against the Panthers, next week he gets the Chiefs and the Bears, right? These are all games where he could finish the week as the quarterback number 1, especially since the Vikings defense is so dog shit. Kirk Cousins is forced to throw the ball a lot late in games. At number 4, we have Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against my Miami Dolphins at home in Buffalo. Quarterback 9 on the season, despite a disastrous start to the season up against the Jets. Now, he slays the Raiders defense, beats down on the Commanders. I feel like this is the second best defense he has played this year. Obviously, the Jets being number 1. I think this game is going to end up being more low scoring than people believe. As a Dolphins fan, this really feels like a game that ends like 24-21, hopefully for my Miami Dolphins, and I can laugh in Bills fans' faces. But this one, to me, doesn't feel like a real shootout, but it does have the upside to be that shootout, right? It wouldn't surprise me at all if the game's over and a team has 30 gazillion points, right? It's like 37 points to 32, right? Of course, that's not like the exact score that's going to happen, but you get what I mean. Like a team close to 40 points, the other team has 30 points, and it's a high-scoring game. That wouldn't shock me either. Ultimately, though, the reason why I have him ranked a little bit lower at quarterback 4, where expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros have him as the QB1, is because I do think it'll be a little bit more low-scoring, and Josh Allen in the Mike McDaniel era has struggled against the Dolphins. Prior to Mike McDaniel, when they had Brian Flores, I mean, Josh Allen would rip the Dolphins' asshole apart, the blowhole out, but with Mike McDaniel, it's been a little bit different. At number 5, Patrick Mahomes. Nick, how can you have Patrick Mahomes ranked as the quarterback 5? Well, it's because despite the fact that the Jets as a whole are a dumpster fire, their defense still appears to have at least an ounce of life, right? The defense isn't completely dead. So while Mahomes will definitely finish inside the top 12, and while he's probably a lock to be a top 5 quarterback even up against the Jets defense, the defense scares me enough to have him ranked as the QB number 5. But again, you're still obviously starting him, moving now to the A tier at the quarterback position. These are all guys that you're most likely starting as well, unless somehow you drafted Anthony Richardson as like the quarterback 15, and you also have like Patrick Mahomes, then you have a real decision to be made here. But according to the rankings, Richardson would be in the A tier, just below Patrick Mahomes. Now, Anthony Richardson has yet to complete a game in his NFL career, but when this man is on the field, he is dominating like Giannis Antetokounmpo in the paint, right? Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman are like fucking Dame Dalla and Giannis, right? Things are going to be crazy in Indy, and that's too much hype to give to Michael Pittman, if I'm being honest with you. But Anthony Richardson, man, oh man, does this man look fucking incredible. He was barely in the Texans game and scored 2 touchdowns before he got his concussion. Now he missed week 3 against the Ravens, and he's back against the Rams. Now the Rams defense is certainly better than I kind of gave him credit for entering into the season, but they're still not world beaters, and Anthony Richardson's upside is just so insane. Like, if he didn't get hurt against the Texans, there's reason to believe he went 6 of 10 for 56 yards, 3 rushes for 35 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He could have scored 4 touchdowns in that game without a doubt and finished as the quarterback 1. So Anthony Richardson's a guy you have to have ranked highly weekly, and especially in these solid matchups. Next up, he gets Tennessee and Jacksonville. My oh my. That's going to be fun. At number 7, we got Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Quarterback 3 last week, quarterback 9 the week before. He started off the season slow against the Texans. Obviously, on paper, the Ravens beat the ever-living shit out of the Texans, but the offense, in terms of Lamar, didn't have to do much, but 2 touchdowns in each of the last 2 games with 0 interceptions. We saw him run a lot more against the Colts, over 100 rushing yards. I know the matchup against the Cleveland Browns isn't some cupcake matchup, right? This isn't some easy matchup, soft as baby shit, but ultimately, I think Lamar plays good here. The only thing that sucks is Rashad Master Bateman or Odell Beckham Jr. aren't going to be playing, so expect a lot of Zay Flowers, as well as Mark Andrews, and even a man with no hands in Nelson Aguilar. At number 8, we got my boy Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins going up against the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Now, as a Dolphins fan, getting into arguments on Twitter, because that's what I love to do with Bills fans, we are both essentially doing the exact same thing. It's like the Spider-Man point emoji, right? Bills fans will say, Nick, Tua only played good because the Denver Broncos defense sucks donkey cock. And then they will say that the Bills defense is so great because they beat on the Raiders and the Commanders. So it's kind of like the Spider-Man emoji, right? Tua slayed a bad defense in week 1 and week 3. The Bills look good against bad offenses in week 3 and week 2. So we'll see ultimately what happens. Again, I don't think this game will be as high scoring as people project, but at this point, you're certainly not sitting Tua Tagovailoa. Moving now to the B tier, we begin at number 9 with Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Atlanta Falcons in London. Quarterback 8 in week 1, but after that, it's been a downward spiral. Quarterback 32 and quarterback 19. Now, I know there are people in the comment section that are like, Nick, should I cut Trevor Lawrence, Nick? Oh my God, touchdown Jesus, Trevor Lawrence with that beautiful flow of hair. Oh man, he's not been playing well, Nick. I'm starting to panic. Oh my God, what should I do? I get it sucks the last 2 weeks. He's the starting quarterback on one of my fantasy teams, and he has bent me over a table without the use of fucking lube. But now he's in London town. He's in England, Nick Crompton City, and you better believe that Trevor Lawrence is coming back with some vengeance. The only thing that scares me here is that the game's in London, not in Jacksonville. Because if this was in Jacksonville, this is a clear bounce back, hop back on the saddle spot like your fucking Woody on his horse. Because this is going to be the Toy Story game. If you didn't know, at 9 in the morning, you wake up or 9:30 a.m. and you get to. I'm definitely watching the Toy Story broadcast of this. 100%. It's going to be sick. You're going to see like fucking Jesse hitting the gritty over there. Buzz Lightyear running around. It'll be fun. But Trevor Lawrence, I think, bounces back here. Do worry, that's in London. And crazy shit happens in London at number 10. I mean, obviously crazy shit happens in London. Those motherfuckers eat beans with their breakfast. Disgusting. At number 10, we got Joe Burrow. Not great this season. Not great. Quarterback 30 on the year. But this is the matchup where he rights the ship. He turns everything around up against the Titans. Now, this game is in Tennessee. Titans defense against the run is rock hard like your cock after some Viagra. But up against the pass, they are soft. They are limp dick. And I think this is the spot where Joe Burrow has his bounce back spot. At number 11, we have big cock Brock Purdy. Now, if you have Lawrence and Joe Burrow, and you want a safety net, you want to wrap 2 condoms over your roster, right? I can't take fucking Lawrence and Burrow, man. They've been fucking me over. Then you could just play Brock Purdy if he's on the waiver wire. Maybe you have Brock Purdy as well. Quarterback 13 last week. Quarterback 13 on the season. Brandon Ayuk appears to be back. Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, a recipe of sugar spikes and everything nice for Brock Purdy, going up against a garbage Arizona Cardinals defense. Now, I know Dak Prescott could not defeat that defense last week. He was locked in a box like a fucking mime, but I think that big cock Brock Purdy here has quite the day up against the Cardinals to close out the B tier. We got Geno Smith of the Seahawks going up against the Giants in MetLife. Quarterback 15 on the season. His best performance was that overtime thriller night, like Michael Jackson up against the Lions in week 2 in Detroit. Quarterback 8 in that game. Quarterback 15 on the season. Great matchup up against the Giants. I view him as a pretty safe quarterback. But even with all these weapons of Lockett, Metcalf, JSN, Kenneth Walker, it's like Walker's getting so many touches, he's scoring so many touchdowns, that it is kind of cuckolding Geno Smith. Ultimately, though, he is a very safe option this week if you need a safe quarterback that is also potentially available on the waivers. Moving now to the C tier, we have one man and one man only. That's Deshaun Watson. Initially in this tier, Jordan, Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet was in here as well. But Deshaun Watson going up against the Ravens in Cleveland. Now, Deshaun is listed as questionable with a shoulder injury. Watson did not throw on Wednesday before doing some light throwing on Thursday. There were mixed reports regarding what he did on Friday, but he appeared to throw a pass or two before meeting with the trainer. He is likely a game time decision. So the fact that he's dealing with that injury scares me enough to leave him in a tier of his own and not bump him into the B tier. Now, Deshaun Watson started off the season hot. He was playing his fucking guitar up against the Bengals and then up against the Steelers. Everything kind of seemed to implode. And then up against the Titans, he made right on things as the quarterback 10 last week. Again, knowing about the injury does make me a little bit more nervous about Deshaun Watson, but ultimately if he does suit up against the Ravens defense, which is pretty average, I think Deshaun should be just fine. Moving now to the D tier, this is where things start to get real spicy, right? Quarterback 14, Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields is as risky as it gets. He's not wrapping it up. Your girl, it's like having sex, no condom, and the girl is on birth control, and you're just going in there raw dog, right? So, you might make a baby, or you might have fun time, and there's no baby, right? Now, for the sake of things, regardless of what you're trying to do there, Justin Fields has a lot of upside. Justin Fields could end up dropping a deuce on the Broncos defense. We just saw the Broncos defense get ran a train on by Tua Tagovailoa, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Devin Achan, like fucking Jackie Chan, and then also Magic Mike White and Robbie Chosen. So this Denver Broncos defense is ripe for the taking. Justin Fields just needs to go in there and do something. But I worry that Justin Fields can't do that. So he is by far the most risky quarterback in this tier. I could see him being the quarterback 30, even against a shitty Broncos defense. You could also see him being like the quarterback 5. Hopefully he figures it out. Their bye week isn't until week 13. Heads are going to have to roll if you lose this game. They need to fire fucking Eberflus. At number 15, Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited of the Denver Broncos, going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Actually has looked pretty good this season. Really great matchup for Russ up against the Bears. So if you want the safer bet, you go with Russ over Justin Fields. But if you're ready to just potentially get sodomized by your quarterback, then you can play Justin Fields because the upside's so high. But Wilson also has a lot of upside. He's just a lot safer. At number 16, we got Throw It on a Dime Like I Ain't Even Trying, Daniel Jones. Nick, that's the song for Trace McSorley. Well, I know, but in that song, he says throw it on a dime. That's Danny Dime's nickname, but he's more like Danny fucking Pennies at this point. This poor bastard, quarterback 28-1 and 31. Now, the bad games are up against really good defenses. The good game up against bad defense. The Seattle defense on paper isn't bad, nor is it great. It's pretty middle of the road, right? You wouldn't say that this defense is garbage, but you also wouldn't say that they're amazing. Now, it appears that Blitz boy Jamal Adams will be back in this game, so that's a plus for the Seahawks. Ultimately, the reason why I have Daniel Jones ranked lower at quarterback 16 is because I am still nervous. I'm still nervous that Brian Daboll hasn't figured it out. That maybe that week 2 comeback against the Cardinals was a little bit fugazi, right? Maybe this offense, this defense regressed mightily. Maybe the NFL figured out Brian Daboll. Now, again, I'm not saying that's what happened because the 2 down games were up against great defenses. So maybe they figure it out. I'm hoping they figured things out here, but I am still a little bit nervous. At number 17, we got CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans going up against the Steelers at home in Houston. Left, do it right, do it. Everyone knows the dance. The CJ Stroud's been hitting. Quarterback 12 last week, 13 the week prior, quarterback 14 on the season. The offensive line is down bad. Tunsil's going to be out. Hopefully CJ Stroud is able to survive this one. Knock on wood. I'm obviously not rooting for injuries. I'm just saying, like, I'm fucking scared for CJ Stroud. I think another lineman's out. This lineman in Houston is already paper fucking mache, so it's very scary. And they're playing the Steelers. TJ Watt might be all up in that ass. CJ Stroud might be holding TJ Watt's pocket at the end of this thing. But again, he's been so good that I still believe in him. But if he was in a better matchup, like next week up against the hot Atlanta Falcons, we're going to have to rank him much higher. Closing things out here at the quarterback position, moving to the E tier. But before we could break down the rest of these quarterbacks, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Manscaped. Fresh ball fall is upon us, and you need to be in the festive spirit. Light a candle, get some pumpkin spice, and make sure your balls are looking nice with the sponsor of today's show, Manscaped. Nature may clear the leaves of their trees, but you'll need Manscaped's help to get you ready for that sweater weather. Get your pants puppies prepared for cuffing season with a trim as refreshing as a fall breeze by going to manscaped.com and using code Notorious for 20% off plus free shipping. Manscaped has some of the greatest tools for grooming as a guy. As someone that has used some other products and things haven't went too well, I will assure you that Manscaped is on the top of the line. Again, bring in fall right and get 20% off and free shipping with the code Notorious at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use promo code Notorious as the leaves fall. Make sure you have it all with Manscaped. Back on into things, number 18, Matthew Stafford has been pretty reliable as the quarterback 18 through 20-ish every single week. Good matchup against the Colts in Indianapolis, but Matthew Stafford's thrown 4 interceptions over the last 2 games, and last week was against Cincy, which I wouldn't describe as like some world-beating defense. So I am a little bit worried about Stafford, if I'm being honest with you. He's going to be good enough to feed Puka and Tutu, and the reports are true that Cooper Kupp will be back in week 5. That's really positive for Stafford, even though it's a tough matchup up against the Eagles. So while things are trending fine for Stafford, interceptions are just kind of, they're just not it, right? He just should not be throwing some of these. Like, it's like a clear lapse in judgment, like you're Logan Paul going into a forest. So I think Matthew Stafford will be fine, but again, just can't really rank him much higher. Number 19, we got Dak up against the Patriots. Dak has just been downright fucking atrocious dick cheese this season. Quarterback 25, quarterback 18 last year up against literally a matchup that Daniel Jones looked like fucking Michael Vick in. Quarterback 18 against the Cardinals, and he threw a disasterful interception, right? The guy looked like he was blind out there and needed a fucking cane to get around and those glasses. I think his name was Stevie Wonder. Now he gets a tough matchup in New England. Quarterback 19 feels a little high for him, but again, there's so many bad matchups at quarterback, and there's so many quarterbacks that really just aren't that good, where Dak kind of just has to rank inside the top 20. Plus, there already a game that already happened in which two of the quarterbacks were ranked ahead of him, Jordan Love Me Tender, as well as Jared Goff. At number 19 or number 20, we got Derek Carr, formerly of the Raiders, now of the Saints, questionable for week 4. Practice Friday with that shoulder injury. I thought for sure he was going to be out. We were going to get the Jameis revenge game against the Bucs, but right now it feels like things are trending towards Carr playing. It just kind of sucks because this is a game that on paper is kind of boring, right? Just real boring fucking 1 o'clock game. Bucs, Saints. It's like, oh, now Jameis is playing. That's going to be fun, right? Because Jameis might throw 5 interceptions. He might throw 12 touchdowns in the game. That'll be fun, but now it's going to be Carr. Carr's fucking boring. Okay, I'm not saying Carr's bad. He's boring. But he's probably going to play at this point. The Bucs defense, they're pretty all right. But Carr hasn't looked good enough to even in these positive matchups to rank him highly. At number 21, can you do some for me? Baker Mayfield going up against the Saints. Bad matchup for Baker, but Baker's been more consistent than Carr this season. But again, the matchup scares me away. Quarterback 21. Quarterback 22, small hands, Kenny Pickett. Now, last week, hallelujah to the football gods. Small hands, Kenny Pickett got his hands around the neck of the Raiders, and he had a good game. Quarterback 15, but was that just a rabbit out of the hat? Probably. Kenny Pickett sucks. Has not looked good this season. Now he goes up against the Texans that I know, they're not the best defense ever, but they're a pretty much better defense than people give them credit for because of the defensive coordinator, formerly of the 49ers, that's now their head coach, DeMeco Ryans. And Texans drafted some pieces to that defense. The defense looks a lot better. I don't trust Kenny Pickett. I just don't. Until Matt Okanida is fired, can't pick it up, unless he's playing the Raiders again, which, checking the schedule here, doesn't happen. Moving to quarterback 23, Sam Howell of the Commanders going up against the Eagles in Philly. Quarterback 11, week 1. Quarterback 14, week 2. Quarterback 32 last week. This is a bad matchup against the Eagles. I think he bounces back and finishes as, like, the quarterback 20 through 26, right? So not as bad, but still not startable in fantasy. Then he gets the Bears, Atlanta, then the Giants. So maybe he can get back into the top 12. It wouldn't really be surprising because those matchups are just so much better than the Eagles. To close out the quarterbacks here, Mystic Mac Jones, quarterback 24, going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Now, if Andy Dalton was playing, not Bryce Young, Andy Dalton would be ranked up here, but he's not. It seems like Bryce Young's playing. Mac Jones had one great game against Philadelphia, and all of Boston was just fucking erect, talking about, oh my God, Mac Jones is so good. Oh my God, I would love to just fucking chortle on that guy's balls. And then, week 2, week 3, reality sets in. Oh shit. We suck again. Like that fucking clip from the Bobby Boucher movie, What a Boy. What a Gatorade. Mac Jones just isn't that good. If Patriots had better weapons, he'd be better. I know the Dallas Cowboys defense is on fraudulent watch, but they're going to be just fine against Mac Jones. Moving now to the tight end position here, beginning at number 1 with Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, because that's all you hear about nowadays. Nothing about football, nothing about the actual games, nothing about how the Dolphins are on top of the world, just about how Travis Kelce is dating Taylor Swift. Man, oh man, Kelce is must start every single week. I don't need to suck him off. We already know Taste Swizzle is doing that. So, Kelce, lock him in, must start every week. We don't even have to talk about him. Same thing with Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson, as the kids are calling him. Tight end 2 on the season. Tight end 3, 1 and 6 over the last 3 games. Great matchup up against the Panthers. Very safe bet to finish inside the top 3 weekly. With how, again, we talked about it with Kirk O'Chains, how dog shit this defense is. The offense just needs to throw the ball a ton. And to close out the S tier, Mock Andrews. Now, again, we talked about Odell out. Rashad Master Bateman out. I know Mark Andrews had a dip in production week 3 against the Colts. Tight end 21. He missed week 1, but he was the tight end 3 in week 2 again. Still one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. You can argue that maybe if he was Patrick Mahomes' tight end, he would be the tight end 1 every single week. So Mark Andrews, still very good. Still very safe. Again, I don't need to fucking blabber on here. Yap, 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 as the kids are saying nowadays. about these guys. Moving now to the A tier. Again, just guys you have to start. If you have them, you start them. At number 4, Easy E, Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Falcons in that Disney Channel game up against the Falcons in London. Tight end 5, 6, and 7. If that pattern goes correct, in week 4, he'll be the tight end number 8. But on the real, he is the tight end 4 on the season in PPR. Matchup against Atlanta is good. And even with the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs of the Jaguars offense, when Trevor Lawrence looks like he went to college, not at Clemson, but the school for blind and deaf, Evan Ingram has still been feasting. 8 targets in the last 2 games, 5 targets in week 1. That sounds good to me, especially at a very volatile position. At number 5, we have George Kittle. And George Kittle is the definition of volatility. You open up the Merriam-Webster dictionary and you see a picture of George Kittle next to volatile or boom or bust. Tight end 26, 32, then tight end 3 last week. That's what he is. In this offense where you have Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey, and Kittle, only one ball, as they say, right? And the ball a lot of the time isn't going to Kittle, especially because this Kyle Shanahan system relies so heavily on the blocking tight end, right? Kittle lays down a lot of blocks like Mario lays the pipe down. So I think Kittle should be in for a high upside game. The Cardinals defense is not good. They reek to high heaven. But this is a big but. Shout out to Riley Reed. George Kittle is very volatile. Like I said, right? Even in this great matchup, he could be like the tight end 30, and it really wouldn't be that crazy. Tight end number 6, the Walrus, Darren Waller of the Giants, going up against the Seahawks in Seattle. Just like Daniel Jones, down week 1, down week 3 against Arizona, he wakes up. Now he's had 5, 8, and 7 targets. I still believe that my take was correct with Darren Waller. I still believe that Darren Waller is one of the better tight ends in the NFL, and he is in a great spot to succeed. We've seen that Daniel Jones locks onto him. He locks onto him like he's using aim assist on Call of Duty Warzone. And I think that Darren Waller is going to bounce back in a big way up against Seattle. Moving now to the B tier, we got Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert wasn't good enough. It hasn't been good enough this season to be in the A tier. But again, you're never really fucking sitting Dallas Goedert. Tight end 68, then 20, then 13. So he's been making some rises up the finish at the end of every single week. Goddard was a guy that you drafted relatively highly. Wasn't necessarily like a top 5 round pick in every league, but top 7 round pick, drafted as a top 6, top 5 tight end. I get that the Eagles offense hasn't been as phenomenal as people want, and it is frustrating once they get to the goal line that instead of Swift or Goddard or Brown or Smith, fucking Jalen Hurts is just in there. Instantly. Flies into the end zone. It's a little frustrating, but Goddard has had 7 targets in back-to-back games. I'm not quitting him yet. Moving now to the C tier. This is basically where now it's just into your pick of the poison, right? You don't have the top 7 guys. You're not necessarily down tremendous with any of these guys, but you're praying for the touchdown. With Jake Ferguson going up against the Patriots in Jerry's world, he's been a top 12 tight end in back-to-back games. Last week was finally the first time where we saw the targets actually correlate into some yards. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 48 yards. No score in that one. Could definitely score up against the Patriots. Again, all these guys do feel pretty similar, though. At number 9, Hunter Henry going up against the Cowboys in Dallas. Tight end 1, 2, and then 29. Not the best, but that was up against the Jets. Cowboys defense is still tough, but again, I think Hunter Henry will be just fine. Mac Jones just loves throwing this man the rock. 5, 7, and 6 targets over the last 3 games. Number 10, Pat Freiermuth. Now, Freiermuth has not been seeing a lot of targets, 4, 1, and 4, but he has scored 2 touchdowns on limited targets. Texans defense pretty good, not necessarily amazing up against the tight end. You just got to hope that the 1 touchdown that Kenny Pickett throws this game is to Patrick Freiermuth. At number 11, Kyle Pitts of the Falcons going up against the Jags in Jacksonville, actually in London. Tight end 22, 42, and 16. Most amount of targets on the season, 9 targets, 5 receptions, 41 yards, still only the tight end 16. I pray to the football gods that next season the Falcons can draft a quarterback, because then Kyle Pitts, Drake London, they're going to feast. But even in London, I don't really think Drake London or Pitts are going to be that great. But again, the upside's there. The upside's always there. If they just fucking fed him the ball, he'd be a top 5 tight end every week. But we know that's probably not happening. And to close out the C tier, Tyler Higbee of the Rams going up against the Colts. Questionable to play with an Achilles injury. Definitely something to monitor. He did not participate this week. He's questionable. If I was to guess, he's probably not playing, but I hope he plays because he's the tight end on a bunch of my teams. He's a very reliable tight end weekly. Probably going to finish as like the tight end 8 to 16 in any given game. And I know week 2 he was down bad against the 49ers, but the Indianapolis Colts is a much better spot. Now into the D tier, we got Gerald Everett, David Njoku, Dalton Kincaid, and Zach Ertz. So Gerald Everett definitely got to boost up my rankings after the injury of Mike Williams. Last week, Everett had 6 targets, 6 receptions, 30 receiving yards, most of that coming once Mike Williams went down. It feels like with Mike Williams there's not a lot of room for Everett, but now there really is going up against a bum Raiders defense. This could be a huge spot for Everett. At number 14, David Njoku just hasn't performed this season. This is kind of the last straw for me on Njoku, tight end 28, 29, and 24. Now, he's been getting around 4 targets a game. He just hasn't done much with that. And when they get in the red zone, it kind of just seems like Jerome Ford F-150 is barreling his way into the end zone. So I'm about one more game of ranking Njoku in like the D or the C tier until like if he fucks this one up against the Ravens, they're on a bye week 5. He's definitely a sit week 6 against the 49ers. Like, I'm just cutting him. I'm tired of him if he's not able to perform up against, again, a pretty middle-of-the-road Ravens defense. Again, I don't think the Ravens defense is amazing. I also don't think the Ravens defense is terrible. At number 15, Dalton Kincaid going up against the Dolphins. The Dolphins defense, not very good against the tight end, if I'm being honest with you. Trouble with Kincaid is he's battling for targets like he's at fucking, what's that called? The Night Thing. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Not Talladega Nights is the race car movie. Ricky Bobby and Will Ferrell. Fuck. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm gonna have to look it up because I don't know. It's just off the top of my head. Where you go there, you eat like some fucking turkey leg, you drink some mead, watch the guys fight. In my head, it's like Night at the Museum, but that was definitely not what it is. That's a film. Teddy Roosevelt in that one. Fuck. What, Ben Stiller? What is this called? Something Nights, right? Chivalrous Nights? No. There's also a Fire Nights movie, if you guys haven't seen it, with... And what's the night movie called, too? Jesus. It's with, oh, man, that one actor who's really good. All right, we're just Googling both of these because I don't want to have to sit here for 5 hours of a tight end video. People already clicked off. The movie is A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. That movie's fucking fire, straight gasoline if you've never seen that one. And then... The place is Medieval Times. The second I went to Google it, the second I was trying to figure out what it was called, I figured it out instantly. I was like, fuck, what an idiot. He ruined the joke. He had to pause, but it is what it is. So Kincaid having a chivalrous battle, duel of sorts with Kincaid, right? Kincaid and Knox dueling. Kind of sucks for Kincaid, but again, he's still the tight end 1 in my opinion. Number 16, Ertz, my ball Zach Ertz of the Niners. Cardinals going up against the Niners. As you guys can tell, when I record these videos, it's pretty late at night. So if I fuck up a name or something, that's why it is. Once you get towards the end of the tight ends, things start to drag on. I still try to have fun, though. I still try to give you some real analysis. But again, this is really like, it's almost like a luck box here. It's like fucking running the mystery box in Call of Duty. Like Ertz, tight end 12, 7, and then 40. Only saw 2 targets last week. I think it'll come back against the Niners. But again, the matchup is very, very scary. So now we move into the E tier with just a shit ton of tight ends that, look, these other guys that we've been talking about, like from the tier with Ferguson, Henry, Freiermuth, Pitts, Higbee, that feels a little gross. Then it starts to feel even more gross with Everett, Njoku, Kincaid, and Ertz. Now you're into the range where it's like, if you have to start one of these guys, you are fucked, as Conor McGregor would say. Tight end, number 17, Durham Smythe going up against the Bills. Bills also kind of struggle against the tight end. Durham Smythe, though, doesn't see enough use to really be start-worthy, but if magically he got 4 targets in this game, it wouldn't surprise me if he scored, if I'm being honest with you. At number 18, Hayden Hurst was a big player in week 1, right? 7 targets, 5 receptions, 41 receiving yards, scored Bryce Young's first ever touchdown, tight end 2. Then after that, invisible, but he's got a great matchup up against the Vikings here to potentially bounce back. At number 19, Cole Kmet. This guy is, in my opinion, a really good NFL tight end. He has just been butt-fucked by the fact that this offense reeks to high heaven that Justin Fields is so bad. If Fields figures it out, Cole Kmet will move up the rankings very quickly. At number 20, Taysom Hill. Now, once you're in this range, again, you're just praying for upside. Taysom Hill's the definition of upside. Now, if Derek Carr misses, which is still a realm possibility, and they have Jameis, I think we see even more Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's going to get a chance to run here. He ran for almost 100 yards in week 2. I mean, the upside's there. Again, he could be a 0 in your lineup, but he also could get you 20 points legitimately. At number 21, Schultz. Dalton Schultz was a guy that I was heavy on, drafted him a lot in best ball, and he just hasn't been getting the targets. The offense in Houston has been great. CJ Stroud has been balling out of control, fucking all of these hoes like that Future song, but Dalton Schultz hasn't really done shit. So, tight end 41, 25, 50, tight end 39 in the season. Hopefully he just sees more targets because this Texans team does look really good offensively. At number 22, Juwan Johnson. Again, with all of this, with Taysom Hill being used and Juwan Johnson, all this usage, it basically makes it impossible to start any of them. But again, the further you down you get in the rankings, the worse the actual skill of the tight end is. At number 23, Chig. If they didn't have Hopkins, Treylon Burks, and Derrick Henry, I think Chig would probably be, even if they just didn't have D-Hop, I think Chig would be balling. But again, he's on a run-first offense that struggles to pass. Ryan Tannehill has looked bad up against a decent defense. Tight end 23. Final tight end in today's video, the F tier, Kylen Granson. Who the fuck is that guy? Of the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Rams. Tight end 14 in week 1. Tight end 9 in week 2. Fell back down to earth in week 3. But that's because that was Dalton, the red rifle, the red rocket, like a dog's cock. I think that's what people call it. Maybe I should ask Israel Adesanya if anyone gets that one. You're a nice UFC fan. But yeah, Kylen Granson going up against the Rams. He's been balling, so I got to give him some credit. Tight end 24. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to check out my Patreon, link to the rankings, as well as any answer to any question you guys may have for $7.50. Link in the video description. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy.